This is the second of the sessions that I'm going to be doing about the broad heading of the psychology of success. This session is one of my favorites because I get to myth bust motivation, either our own or our candidates and clients, is not what most people think it is. Motivation is very different to that pump up that people get. It's not the same as going to see a motivational speaker, going to a big gig, music's banging, the lights show's going, there's dancers on the stage, you're up and you're at it. That's oof. You get that rush, that adrenaline, that endorphins, the serotonin's kicking in. Ooh, yes. Don't get me wrong, I'm as big a fan of Tony Robbins over the last 20 years as anybody else on the planet, but it's not the same as genuine motivation. When I was doing my big in real life gigs, 1,000, 2,000 people, stage, light show, the whole routine. There's nothing I enjoyed more than either Jennifer Lopez doing "Let's Get Loud" or Blur doing "Song 2." Da, 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 da. Whoa! Let loose. 30 seconds, 60 seconds of Blur doing "Song 2." Woohoo! Nothing quite like it. That rush is fabulous. And then, like all that sort of thing, it starts to fade out. Like almost every emotion, there's a simple psychological rule that most people aren't aware of, which is that left to its own devices, pretty much any emotion will fade after 45 seconds and disappear after about 60. You have to consciously work to retain an emotion, either positive or negative, for much longer than about a minute. If you get into a little sort of mental hamster wheel and you go, oh God, it's awful, it's horrible, it's terrible, it sucks, you're consciously running the internal loop that keeps you feeling down. If you are trying to constantly keep yourself in that Song 2 mode, if you're trying to constantly keep yourself in firewalk state, whoa, it takes conscious effort. And I'm not against that. In fact, I'm massively for it. But that is not the same as what I regard as motivation. I think of that as fuel. That is putting a tank of gas in the car. It's charging up at the charging point. So your battery's full. That's fuel. But if you ain't got an engine, the fuel is of no value. The fuel is, yeah, you need to have it. It's nice to have a full tank, but it's not the engine. And what I'm going to talk about today is the engine and the entire driving system. Okay? Because genuine motivation has three pieces. Okay? The first is the vision, the second is the reason, and the third is the trigger. Let me just repeat that quickly. First is the vision, the second is the reason, the third is the trigger. If you miss out any of those three pieces, you're not really going to get long-term drive, propulsion, motivation. What we're trying to build is a personal propulsion machine for us, for our candidates, for our clients, something that sustains, something that keeps going as long as there is any fuel in the system. Don't get me wrong, every so often, recharging with a visit to the gym or a dance class or a hike in the mountains or a surf in the sea or a whatever gets a bit more fuel in the tank, I'm all for it. Absolutely. But without the engine, it's not academic, but it's not really going to take you anywhere. So let me talk about how that works personally and for candidates and clients, because some of the terminology sounds like it's a bit too grandiose to work with candidates, a bit too meta to deal with clients. It's really not. It's nuts and bolts. This is how people work stuff. So let me just break it down a little bit. Firstly, the vision. Vision. I have a vision board. I have this 10-year plan. Yeah, that's perfectly valid use of the term vision. But in this context, I'm not decrying that. I have a vision for what I'm planning on for the next 10 years. I have some of it up on a board somewhere. It's actually up on a Trello board. But that's not quite what I'm talking about. Vision in this context is nothing more than a very clear, a crystal clear sense, picture, story of what you want in the future, what you want your future to be like. And going to the vision board, going to the narrative story of your life is a great way of doing that. And it's enormously powerful. If you extend that for yourself, if you extend that concept of a vision board, and if you write the story of the next 10 years, but do it in past tense. So Stephen did this, and then what happened was, that's an incredibly powerful tool that people just don't utilize enough. It's a logical extension of work from people like Brian Tracy. So yes, start with I am, but then fill in the blanks of how Stephen became that, how Jerome became the other. That's when you're really starting to integrate things and get the message, get the future story deeply embedded in your head. But what about with candidates and clients? You're not going to sit a candidate down and go, let's create a vision board. Well, maybe you would. I wouldn't. But maybe you've got the kind of relationship with your candidates where you can sit them down for 30, 45 minutes and create a vision of what they're looking for. If you can, fabulous. Jump on the community and let me know how you do it. But for most of us, it doesn't have to be that big. It doesn't have to be that grandiose. It can be a much more conservative, much more simple process. If I'm talking with a candidate and I talk about, just what is it you're trying to achieve the next 3 or 4 years? What do you want more of or less of? What is it that you really want to be different 3 years from now as opposed to today? The answers to those very simple positive framing questions. If the term positive framing question isn't quite familiar, jump back into the academy, look at the module on and the lessons on questions. Positive framing question can only be answered with degrees of positive. Neutral framing questions, what are you looking for? How do you enjoy it? What's it like? That sort of question gets you anything. It's a neutral framing question. You've no idea what the hell is going to come up. A negative framing question, what do you like least? What's the most awkward? What's the worst? Best, easiest, fastest, slowest, hardest, quickest. Slowest, hardest, most difficult. So if you go for positive framing questions about somebody's future, they start to create a sense. They start to create an image, a vision, a story of what their future could be like. And the more you drill into that with precision questions, really don't just take it at face value. Oh, well, I'd like to have a bit more time with the family. Well, I know what I mean by a bit more time with the family. I don't know what you mean. So if you said that, if I don't drill down and ask precision questions, what I'm going to do is interpret what you said by what I would have meant if I'd used that phrase, if I'd used those words. And that's no way to build a vision for you. So ask the candidate positive framing questions. What would you like more of or less of? What would you really like to achieve in the next 3 years? What would be absolutely stunning if you can generate it over the next 5 years or so? Oh, that's fabulous. Precision questions. How do you mean? In what way? What would that look like? What's your definition? Could you give me an example? Those kinds of questions will take somebody further and further into the detail. And the detail is what really matters. It's to go from, I want to spend a bit more time with the family, to, I want to have these kind of holidays in these kinds of places. I want to spend my weekends doing this with Dick, Jane, or Spot. And we're going to have that kind of dog, and we're going to go to these kind of places and do these kind of things. And we're going to have these kind of family nights. Really digging down is taking the superficial and making it more and more profoundly real. And that doesn't take an awful lot of time. If you're patient, if you stop assuming and you start helping somebody clarify, you're not drilling, you're not digging. Well, you are, but let's call it instead clarifying. You're clarifying what people want. You're clarifying what they mean. You're clarifying what they're saying. You're not just clarifying it for you, which is good, by the way, but you're helping them clarify it. And that's what really matters. So if you're dealing with a candidate and they tell you what they really, really want, what the job should be like, what their day-to-day is going to be like, what kind of projects they're involved in, what kind of income they're looking to generate, what kind of role they want next or in 5 years' time, what their life is going to be like, the more clear, the tighter that, for want of a better term, vision is, the better. Now, the reason I keep moving away from vision to sense or story is that not everybody is visual. One of my friends who's on the call at the moment is not particularly visual. They don't see what they want to achieve. They listen to it. They hear it. They tell themselves the story. They talk about it. They just process things in a different way. There are 5 senses, unless you're big into Roswell, in which case there might be a 7th or 8th. But we got the 5 senses. We process information through our 5 senses. We create our vision, our plan, our desires for the future, our sense of what we want to achieve, our story for the future, using our 5 senses. So, yes, the majority of people will do it visually, but some people will do it auditorily. They'll talk to themselves about it, or they'll hear the kids playing, they'll hear the waves, they'll hear the music playing. That's fine. Other people will get a sense state of it. They'll feel the sun on the skin. They'll smell the margaritas, whatever it might be. So I'm using the word vision because it's the most commonly accepted and most easy to interpret, but it doesn't really matter how your candidate is processing that information. What matters is that they're creating a sense, a story of a future that is different to today. A future that's more desirable than where they are now. And we're doing that because we want, in a very gentle sense at this point, we want our candidates to be slightly disturbed. Now, I don't mean like disturbed. I mean an unsettling feeling. We want them unsettled. We want them a bit disturbed about where they are. We want them a bit unhappy. We want the future to be different from today. Once we've done that, we've got the vision. Same thing with the client. We want the client to think about how the ideal candidate will change their life, will change their department, change their division, change their entire business. Yeah. If you're dealing with a PE-backed firm and you're talking with somebody a partner in private equity, they're not going to get excited or even interested in, a general manager for this business. Like, whatever. They want to talk about, they're going to be excited by, they want a vision for what impact that person's going to have, how that business will be different in 3 years' time than it is today, how that business will outgrow all the other businesses in their portfolio. They're looking for a different story. They're looking for a different vision. If the future is just like today, why the hell change? The future has to be different from today has to be more profitable or less stressful or more exciting or more fun or fill in the blanks. That the versions of that vision are as varied as people are. There's some themes, but nothing much more than that. So, talking with a client, a prospect, about, well, what would you like to get more of or less of? What would you like to see happening differently? What's the difference that the great candidate will bring as opposed to one that's, all right? What's the difference between a superstar and somebody who's competent? That starts to paint the image and the picture. And again, drill down with precision questions. How do you mean? In what way? What's your definition? Can you put a number on that? How will you know? What does that look like? And the more precise the answer, the clearer the vision, the tighter the story, the more the desire. But that isn't motivation. That's just the vision. That's just what they want. Now let's turn it around a little bit. Let's look at the why. And this is, again, it's an extension of the precision questions. Excuse me. In terms of skills within the academy, it comes under the heading of PEA, Precision, Empathy, Amplify. Because I'm always, those of you that have been with me a while will realize, I'm always trying to go from the conceptual, that this is the big picture, down to the nuts and bolts, strategy, the implementation, the skill. So we've got the vision. Oh, that'd be amazing. That's what I'm looking for. Fabulous. Now let's work on the why. Let's start with toward motivation. Let me explain a couple of bits of terminology. Motivation is not fixed. It's not woohoo, that's the fuel. Motivation is not necessarily pretty. Okay? If you spoke to, the Olympics are on at the moment in Paris, if you spoke to or interviewed a lot of Olympic champions, there'd be a dichotomy that most people don't expect. A lot of people are, I want to achieve this, I've wanted a gold medal, I want this, I want that. And if you said to them, why, which no journalist will ever ask, why did you want to be an Olympic champion? Why was it important to you? Why did you put in those insane hours for those insane years to become an Olympic champion? The answer will come in two flavors. One is toward motivation. I wanted this. I wanted the recognition. I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best. But there's also away from motivation. I didn't want to be a failure. I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to waste 10 years of my life. I didn't want to. Now, a lot of the stuff that people have been taught erroneously about motivation focuses solely on the toward motivation. You've got to have a positive reason. You've got to go out there and make it happen for all these good reasons. Yeah, but that's not actually how a lot of people work. Because some people don't believe their own bullshit. Not to paint too fine a point on it. Some people, yes, they respond to, well, when I've got more time with the kids, when I can do this, I can do the other, I can learn to surf, I can have the life of my dreams, I can live in the place I want, I can have time with the family and do these things because I've always wanted to do this. And that's the life I've always wanted from being a kid. I've always wanted to have this kind of life for me and my family. And that's the future I've always yearned for. Because, and what comes after the because is what really matters. Because I want to feel good about myself. Because I want to know that I've done everything I could with my life. Because I want to fulfill my potential. Drill down, use precision questions to get into the positives, get into the why somebody wants to achieve those. What are the positive reasons that they want the vision that you've helped them paint? What are the positive toward reasons that make somebody want a better job, more pay, more autonomy, more freedom to do things, more scale, more time with the family, whatever it might be? What is it they want the more of? Okay. Fundamentally, if somebody wants more of something, that's normally a positive. But you must have had the situation, you may have had it yourself, where you have this positive vision of the health you'd like to have, which is close to my heart at the moment because I piled on the pounds during lockdown and I'm working very hard to get them off again. But I knew I wanted a certain kind of lifestyle. I wanted to look a certain way. I wanted to feel a certain way. I had lots of positive stuff, but I didn't do it. You must have things in your life where you know there's things that will benefit you. You know there's things that would help. You know there's stuff that you could do that will make you feel better, that will make you do better, have better, be better. But you just don't get started. You just don't. You take to heart the idea that you can always procrastinate later. Yeah, you just never get round to it. Almost everybody's had that experience, even the most motivated people. I suspect even someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, the stuff that they would like to do, the stuff that they're motivated to do, the stuff they imagine would be fabulous, but it's just not a priority right now. So they put it on the back burner. I'll get around to it. And that's because the reason is not enough to get us started. So help somebody with positive framing questions and lots of precision build up the vision, what they want. Then build the why, build the positive motivation, the toward motivation, all the positive reasons why that will be good for them, why they'll benefit from it, why they'll enjoy that, how they will win more, how they'll win bigger, how their life will be better, how their business will prosper, how their career will thrive from achieving that vision. And that will generate the positive feelings, the toward motivation. Because toward motivation is, I can give you a couple of analogies. Imagine either a bow, as in bow and arrow, or a rubber band on a desk. Okay? If you have the rubber band and you push it, it will just sort of make a slight forward movement. If you have an arrow in a bow and you do that, if you push the string forward, well, okay, the arrow will fall at the end of the bow and just land on the floor. Equally, if you get a rubber band and you pull at it, you just flick your finger at it, it will move, but not very quickly and not very impressively. If you have a bow and you pull it back with an arrow in it, you pull it back and let it go, it will fly. But it won't really do much. If you have a bow and arrow and you just pull it and let it go, it'll fly, but it's a bit weak, a bit half-hearted. If you have a bow and arrow and you pull the string and you push the bow, which is why, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but medieval archers, when they've dug up their graves, medieval archers are fundamentally malformed because their left arm and their right shoulder is massive. Literally the bones have developed because of decades of doing that. So you push and you pull and you let go. That will hit the target. Equally, sorry, microphone fell off. Equally, if you have the rubber band on the desk and you push it and you pull it and you let go, it will snap and fly off, hopefully safely in the direction you wanted it to go. People are very much like a rubber band or a bow and arrow. If you just give somebody toward motivation, they may or may not fly off and do the right thing. It's equally likely that they'll go, oh, that sounds amazing, that's fabulous. And when you ask for a new resume, a new CV, they go, yeah, I'll get it to you next week. God. I'm absolutely certain I'm not the only one that's been there. Yeah? So what we need is the trigger. Vision, reason, trigger. Yeah? Those three things added together are motivation. Long-term, sustainable, consistent motivation. The trigger is, okay, this is what will happen if you do. What will happen if you don't? There's all these things you want to have, be, and do. What if you turn around in 3 years' time and you didn't do it? You coulda, but you didn't. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, but didn't. What's that going to mean for you? How easy is it to make up those 3 years of your career? How easy is it to make up for the 3 years that the business didn't grow like a weed? How easy is it to compensate for those 3 years that you didn't spend with the kids? How easy is it to, I know that at face value, it's superficially, this sounds horrible. I'm aware of that. Okay. But these are the questions that you need to ask of your clients and candidates, because this is what builds the personal propulsion machine. This is what makes people act. Okay. I knew that I needed to get rid of the pounds. I knew I needed to get back to my fighting weight. In my case, literally, I knew I needed to get back to where I had been 3 years ago. I didn't do it. And then I developed a trigger. I got a big enough why. I looked and went, okay, if I don't do this in 5 years' time, where am I? If I carry on the way I have for the last 3 years, for the next 3 years, what does that mean? What will the impact of that be? Now, please, we're not therapists, so we're not going to say, how would that make you feel? Okay? We are going to ask about consequences. So when we're talking about the toward motivation, we're going to use precision. How do you mean? In what way? What's your definition? Could you give me an example? We're going to empathize. Oh, I'm with you. Yeah, I see what you mean. Oh, gotcha. We're going to amplify. When you get that, what will the impact be? What will that mean for you? How will that help? What will that difference mean to you? When we flip the conversation to the away from motivation, when we're talking about, we'll if you carry on the way as you are, you were saying that over the last 5 years, it's been kind of a bit monotonous, or nothing's really happened. Over the next 5 years, how's it going to be different? Oh, it's not really. Okay, well, what does that mean from your perspective? Where's that going to leave you? What impact is that going to have on your career? What impact is that going to have on the division? Precision, empathy, amplify. Now, in an ideal world, you would run through those 3 stages: vision, toward motivation, which is positive framing questions; away from motivation, which is negative framing questions; precision, empathy, amplify. You'd run through those in a single call. Ideal world, yeah. A lot of the time, though, you really won't. You either can't buy enough airtime, you can't get enough conversational time, or it takes longer than you have available. Because to do this well is not a quick process. But if you have a candidate that you really, really want to work with, if you have a prospect who's one of your dream 100 and you want to get this locked, you have to spend the time. You have to build the genuine motivation. Because if you just do a quick woohoo session, fabulous. but I'm sure we've all had those calls where you come off the phone and you and the candidate, where you and the client are both going, woohoo, and the email never comes, and you can't get them on the phone, and you screen and you can't get them to reply to your email. We've all been there. I'm absolutely certain that I'm not on my own with that. But if you can finish the first conversation with a really tightly envisioned future, with a really credible, really motivating, really bought in story of what they want to do that's different, there's a damn good chance you're going to get somebody on the next call. Because basic rule, set a meeting from a meeting. Set a call with a call from a call. Okay? You always want to finish this conversation with a date in the diary for the next conversation. Don't ever just assume it will happen, because, it won't. So, first conversation, vision. If you can't get into the why, if you can't get into the toward motivation, that's fine. Do that on the next call. Start the second call with a summary of what you've talked about and what their desires are and what they've created for themselves in their own head. That's the summary. That gets a call off to a great start. Then start talking about why they want it and what it will mean for them and how their life will be better, how their business will benefit from. And if all you do in that call is get to that point, that's great. Set up the next call. This is worst ways, by the way. Get onto the third call, and the third call, you start with a summary of what they're trying to achieve, why that will make a difference, why it will help, why their life, business, career will be better. And then you're getting into the bit that most people feel really awkward about, but it's such a valuable process. Let me put my coaching head on for a second. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel harsh. It's going to feel mean. Shut up and do it anyway, because it's what actually helps somebody take action. If I'm doing a one-to-one coaching session with somebody and we're talking about dramatically changing their business, I'm not just going to create a vision of it with them and then get them all excited about what the future will hold and then hope that they go off and do something about it. That's cruel. That's mean. If I'm doing that kind of session with a client, I'm going to make sure that they are locked and that they are acting. I want to know what they're doing, when, and I want to know why. I want to know what they'll miss out on if they don't take action today. I want to know how they'll feel about their missed opportunities. I want to know what the next 5 years will be like if they don't make a change. I want to know how the business is going now, and if they don't change something dramatically, how is it going to be any different? I want people to, frankly, feel a little bit brown, a little bit down, a little bit, so that I can cheer them up and make them feel excited and blue again. In a non-political way, by the way. So basically, I define the job of a headhunter as taking somebody who's perfectly happy, making them miserable so that I can make them even more happy in the future. That's my definition of my job as a headhunter. It's also, by the way, a pretty good summation of that process. Help somebody create a vision, focus on the positive, the toward why reasons, then take them to what happens if they don't do that. What will it mean if they don't take action? What will it mean if they procrastinate? How will they feel if they miss out on the opportunity? To put that stage into one sentence, the opportunity of a lifetime has to be taken within the lifetime of the opportunity, which is from a guy called John Ridgway, who was the first man to row the Atlantic single-handed. He actually did it twice. The opportunity of a lifetime has to be taken within the lifetime of the opportunity. And that will sometimes mean making people feel deeply and profoundly uncomfortable so that you can then make them feel woohoo again afterwards. So technique-wise, everything you need technique-wise to do those 3 steps is already within the academy. It comes under setups, positive framing questions, negative framing questions, precision, empathy, amplify. And strictly speaking, if you're going to be doing several conversations, SAQ, summarize, advise, and question. So last time we were talking about this, and you were saying that this is the kind of future that you're wanting to achieve. Brilliant. Well, because of that, if it's all right with you, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes just sort of working out why that's really useful, why that would help so much, why that would be great for you. Because then I can really hone in on making sure that you get what you're looking for. Summarize, advise, question. I make no apologies if that's gone through quickly, by the way, because it's all there available in nice bite-sized modular lesson form within the academy. Okay, so vision, reason, trigger, BRT. If you have all 3 elements of that for yourself, you will take action that takes you towards the life or the business or the outcome that you want. Vision, reason, trigger. If you create that with a candidate, they're going to act. They're going to send you their CV. They're going to go to the meeting. They're going to hook up on the Teams call. They're going to do the things that are necessary. You create vision, reason, trigger with a prospect, with a client. They are going to respond to the resumes. They're going to set up the calls. They're going to stick to the calls. They're going to let you prep. They're going to let you debrief. They're going to walk you through the process. If you do that right, they'll even pull you instead of you needing to push them. Push, pull, put toward, away from motivation. This all sort of overlaps. Okay, that's me gone on quite long enough. Thank you. That's 41 minutes. That's as much as I plan to do. I'm going to throw it open to the Ask Me Anything module. For those who haven't been here before, all you need to do is start talking. Your name will pop up on the screen, or your lovely image will pop up on the screen. Introduce yourself very quickly, and then ask whatever you want to. It can be about this video. It can be about something within the academy, or it can be a situation. It really doesn't matter. It's an Ask Me Anything session. So let me throw it open to you guys.